I'm Real Foodie, or otherwise known as Myron Gaines, the new reject at the Turning Point USA lobby. They didn't even give him a chance to come inside of the registration area. Okay, they call that the exhibit hall. He couldn't even get through the exhibit hall. They had him at the lobby, at the door. And whoever that person was with him, she was getting really tired of him. And when he got on that phone thinking that he was going to radio into someone, his entrance into that event, looking like a sad puppy out there, she got tired of him and she started putting on her Turning Point USA, her badge, her entrance badge, because she was going to leave him at the lobby door. It was so embarrassing. It looks like somebody's begging to get in to heaven's gates. That's heaven's gates for him. That's the ultimate I made it as a coon. We're going to look at some of these interesting videos and some of Farul's background and how he started and how it's turning out for him. Let's take a look.
Criminals selling drugs, rap music, FUBU.
Who's the
fried chicken, watermelon?
That's funny.
Well, you said the stereotype.
Yeah, that's so funny. That's so funny.
Black men commit a disproportionate amount of violent crime in the United States representative to their population in America. They're 8% of the population, but they commit somewhere between 40 to 60% of the crime.
Oh, no, I'm not. I'm going to tell you that you're ugly. You look like
your mom does, and everything you're now helping me is your kid that working on.
You smell like onions. You smell like onions.
I declare not to do that. This show is going to be in the fucking dick. Just like you and your
Do it. You want to talk about real racism? I'll be honest. Black people are the most racist people, bro.
Oh, yeah, I know.
They openly do it. And it's because, and the reason why is because they're able to openly be racist with zero consequence so they can say what they want to say. Like literally I'll see them say the most deplorable things about white people, but they feel as though they can do it because of slavery and everything else like that. And I'm like, it's interesting because you guys perpetuate the very thing that you cry about the most. You guys perpetuate the very racism you claim white people are putting on you. This systemic racism, whatever. Black people are the first ones to call white people crackers and all the other derogatory terms.
Asians are pretty damn racist too. If you guys been around Asians, they are racist.
Oh yeah, they
are. Other Asians, blacks, Mexicans, like you motherfuckers are racist.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they're not that racist against white people. Maybe
it's funny though.
Maybe it's not when I'm around.
No black man.
Yeah, right. Well, the parents might be a little disappointed, but like, well, at least you're white, not black.
Yeah.
Or at least you're not Japanese if they're Chinese. Or
yeah, they're racist towards everybody. It's great.
Yeah, it's hilarious. But that's the thing too. I've noticed like a lot of these other cultures, they put pressure on their son or daughter ever to bring home someone of the same race. But if white people do it, they get viewed as evil. And I don't think, to me, I'm not against race mixing, but I think it's weird when the white people get viewed for evil doing it when all the other races can push it.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that people say about me, like, oh, Myron, you're an apologist for white supremacists. I'm like, not necessarily. I'm a free speech absolutist, and I think that if, black people could run around and say black power, I think white people should be able to run around and say white power because freedom of speech is freedom of speech. And, I find it interesting that we will sit there and we'll encourage black power and Black Lives Matter or whatever, but if someone says, well, white power and I want, white men to marry white women and I don't believe in race mixing. Well, how's that different than Dr. Umar Johnson and Tariq Nasheed saying you need to marry a black woman and keep it black? Like, if we on one side we allow these people to say this stuff, this divisive rhetoric, I think these people on this side should be able to do it too. But it's just that when white people say, oh, well, I don't believe in race mixing and I don't want white women getting with black men, though I don't agree with that. Yeah. That doesn't mean I'm not going to fight for their right to say it because I'm a free speech absolutist. And that's where low IQ people don't understand that I have a principle that I think freedom of speech overrides everything. Like, do I agree with them on this? No, but I will fight for their right to say it because no one else is going to have the balls to say, look, white people should be able to say white power without fucking being attacked.
Amaru is not. Yeah, so what's happening, David?
Turning Point did a smart thing. They're not allowing Muslims into their conference.
So he's not being allowed in. Security is he's calling nobody because no one's going to help him get in. So I don't know who he thinks he's calling.
The sadness of the reject. The sadness. And what he does is so dangerous. It undermines the strength of the fabric of democracy here in the United States. See, it didn't work over in his home country, and it's not working now, democracy. And so when they get an airline ticket out of there to come to the United States after fleeing from their nation, they come over here to try bring discord between Black Americans and the rest of the America, because they want to be able to take our place, so to speak. But you can't take our place, because in every war our people have fought. Our free labor has helped to build this country to be so great that you wanted to escape to it. And the things that he was agreeing to with that video where he made the statement that, oh, Black people are racist, or Black people go around calling white people crackers, and all that man did was agreed with him, and then he expounded on his own personal racism, because it didn't stop just there at just Black Americans. No, he wanted to also include that Asians are racist, Latins are racist, right? They're racist too. And if Myron would actually understand where the term cracker came from, Black people didn't walk onto the continent of North America one day and say, oh, we just want to start calling white people the C word. I don't use that in my terminology, but the term came from slavery. It was because the Black slaves, they termed the man, the overseer that worked for the master of the plantation, he would crack the whip. And so that's where that term comes from, cracker. But now it really is a derogatory term, and we don't want to visit those terms. But Black people cannot be racist because we are not the power structure. The power is on us with the majority. But Myron doesn't understand that. Why? Because it's survival of the fittest when you don't have a space here.
Sudan has now been called the epicenter of global suffering. But how did a nation collapse into one of the worst humanitarian crises of our century? More than 12 million have been forced to flee their homes. At least 40,000 civilians are confirmed dead, but the true number is feared to be far higher. And on the ground, the brutality is said to be impossible to comprehend. Entire communities in Darfur have been wiped out. Famine, mass displacement, sexual violence, and a campaign of genocide. Families walking for days through scorched land with no food, no water, and no medical care.
Do you see what I'm saying? Because see, that's where Myron is really from. And that is why a lot of people like Myron that migrate from Africa have such a conflict with Black Americans. I have a very good friend, my boyfriend, he said something really profound not too long ago. And that was, when Africans were not over here and Black Americans were having to run from the dogs, the water hoses, the whips, the lynchings, you didn't hear from anyone from Africa. They never sent ships over here for us. They never came over here and planned logistics to get their people back over to the motherland. But now when the civil rights has passed, now when the blood has shed and all of the sacrifices were made and the path became clear, now they have came over here discredit our people here as foundational Black Americans and our role that we have played here in this country and continue to play, because we bring a lot of great significant attributes to the United States. Also, too, recorded and documented out of the mouth of Myron Gaines. He was in an interview with a young lady a few years ago, and there were questions raised in regards to his sexuality. Now, Myron is a Sudanese Muslim, and within his culture and his religion, being outside of regular heterosexual relationships is considered haram, which is a sin. And I feel as if Myron tries to run away from both identities. He tries to run away from his identity of being a African, that is black, and his identity of being a bisexual man. Now, this is from the mouth of Myron Gaines. This is not alleged. So I'm about to play the video so you can see exactly what I'm talking about.
I would assume that you were gay.
100%.
Why is that?
Because female vaginas are disgusting.
The thing is, right, so
I
men...
might have done some gay porn in the past to make some money.
So do you want a relationship?
Monogamous?
So how many girlfriends do you want?
I mean, men. Thousands of men. And then I wouldn't be in a position to be able to give this information if I didn't take plenty of dick. Wait, is that too much there?
There is one thing for certain, two things are for sure, and that is a heterosexual man is going to be very certain about his sexuality in these modern times. That's not something that they're going to openly joke about. They're not going to waver, because you have to be very clear and you have to be very precise about your labels. And if you are gay or if you are straight, and if you are in between or you joke about your identity, then that means that it's a lot of gray area there. And to say something or jokingly say that you may have or you may have not been in male on male PORN, or you refer to women's genitalia as not something pleasing to you as a supposed heterosexual male that's always giving dating advice on being a alpha leader that accepts nothing less than a submissive, docile, quiet woman that just caters to your sexual needs, then to me, I feel like this is a very confusing conversation, and it's one to be taken that you are not 100% heterosexual. He is just a very he's an unauthentic individual. I think he's very confused about his position here in the United States due to his immigration status. I think that he doesn't really have a backbone. I think he's not true to who he is culturally or his religion. I think that he does a lot of things performative, not only for his family, possibly personally behind closed doors in the things that they discuss as people who practice the Islamic faith, and they are practicing Muslims, and also their culture in regards to being African. I think that he is not being authentic with that. And then also too, I think where he really is happy at is wanting to relive a particular point in his life where he wants to be accepted by white Americans. He wants to be accepted by white Americans so bad. It's like he will do anything to get the approval of white Americans. It is his lifelong goal to be considered one of the good ones. And it's so sad that he seems to be an intelligent young man. He's graduated from college, possibly even worked with the federal government. You know, that's also questionable, because did you do it just as a regular 9-to-5, or were you an op? And who were you opping for? And why are you opping? And who are you opping on? But getting back to the point, he does seem like a pretty intelligent person. However, he has this inferiority complex. He has this self-image issue. And I never really hear him ever talk about the deep things of his culture. Because to do that for him means that I'm going to expose who I am as an African man, a black man first. And I don't want those that I desire proximity to know the inner truth about who I am as a black man. Because I think that he knows that the people that he aligns himself with have really deep-rooted racist ideology, and he knows that he's not accepted in that world. But who would want to be accepted in that world? Even white people who do not support white racist nationalism. They don't support that. There's a lot of people that do not support. Not all white people think the same. There's not everybody that's white here in America shares those opinions. And they don't have to be liberal. They can be conservative white Americans, and they do not share those opinions. But in his mind, he would rather align with those
Well,
people.
how many times have these folks got to let Myron Gaines know that he is not white and he is not invited in the circle like that? Now, I saw a couple of times where people have sent me links of these people just talking down to Myron. They calling him all kind of N-words and everything, and he just sitting there taking it because he wants to be the buffer. And I guess Myron didn't get the memo that the day of the buffer class is ending. And so Myron tried to go into a Turning Point USA event. And I want you to see how them good white people did with old Myron over there. Now, let's kind of just break down that just a little bit. So Myron, you know, even though he's been told many times by these people, straight to his face on X Space, that, you know, look, yeah, we cool with some things you're saying, but, you know, what's really going on in the greater white supremacist society? Yeah, you can't be around us, bruh. You know, like the tokenization is done. Now, I remember the guy who was Nick Fuentes. He had said about that he was tired of seeing people like Jason Whitlock and others who are out here making buku of money spewing their talking points. And they like, we don't need them. We can say it ourselves and we'll make the money. Right. So that's what they own. They don't want to go through no black token anymore. They want to say it themselves. And what I say to them, right on. You need to say it yourself. Don't sit up here and use no token. Let me tell you something. See that little game playing that some of these immigrants like Myron likes to do? I'm going to go join Team White Supremacy. All the stuff that he say is white supremacist talking points. All of it.
Exactly. I totally agree with him. Because Myron, he's not going to go back to Sudan or South Sudan, the home of his birthplace, and go and make that great. He loves America too much. He loves the freedom of America too much. And he would rather tap dance and coon and try to discredit black Americans that do contribute great accomplishments to this nation. Currently, he wants to do a smear campaign on black Americans because many African immigrants, unfortunately, they still feel that they have to compete with black Americans. And how they do that is by any means necessary. They try to implant into individuals that are coming from the continent to
and
America,
that black Americans
that you don't hang around black
have
Americans.
no culture.
But I would have to dispute that because we have a lot of culture, and the majority of the culture we have is American culture because we are Americans and we're proud to be Americans. And America is nothing but an experiment. And over these years, the country has not been perfect, but we've had to fight for our space here. And that's something that many of them are not willing to do back in their home countries. But moving forward, when it comes time to try to hold on to their status, that's when they want to get in contact with the Black Americans. Oh, that's when they want to be unified. Just like there's this new announcement now that these protections are starting to be lifted up from the country of Sudan and South Sudan soon in 2026. Well, he migrated here, so I don't know if himself and other nations from the continent are going to be in jeopardy of being deported. But just like the Somalian situation going on in Minnesota, same thing with the Somalians, because Sudan and Somalia, they're like almost neighboring countries. The only countries in between them is Ethiopia. And so they share a lot of the same values, a lot of them practice the same religion, and they share a lot of the same sentiments about foundational Black Americans. And it's unfortunate that in 2025, Black Americans are still having to discover that there is such a disdain for us from many people coming from the continent of Africa. Just like Myron Gaines, just like many in the Somalian community. For years, a lot of people didn't know this until just recently, how a lot of Somalians really felt about Black Americans. And see, the way they feel about Black Americans, a lot of them feel about Americans. You know, there are so many videos that I'm coming across where I see some of these content creators going into the communities of like Minnesota and other neighboring states, and they're asking a lot of them, would you prefer to live here? Would you prefer to live back at home? Do you prefer to practice Sharia law, or do you prefer to practice the U.S. Constitution? A lot of them prefer to practice Sharia law, and that's including the women. And a lot of them would prefer to move back home to Somalia. And that's the reason why they want to establish the little Somalia in Minnesota. And this is why also that they do not care for foundational Black Americans, is because we don't subscribe to that. We subscribe to an American culture. Even if you are practicing a different faith, like for instance, a lot of African immigrants that are practicing Muslims, they don't align with the Nation of Islam, which is a Islamic faith that was established here in the United States by foundational Black Americans with the lineage of slavery. And they practice the same fundamental beliefs of the Quran. However, if you can't align with the Nation of Islam based on faith and religion, how can you align with the entire foundational Black American community? So that's why we are delineating from them, and many of these African communities that do not show true aligning with us. And we are redefining who we are here as Black Americans within the United States. And unfortunately, Ilhan Omar is also a representation of many of those same sentiments. You know, it's unfortunate that I had a lot of respect for her until I just recently saw a video for myself that was not AI produced. This was real, of her sitting in on a conversation with another stakeholder within the Somalian American community, and where he was expressing that their goal as Somalian Americans are to uproot Black Americans and our leadership roles here in the United States. That's what their goal is to do. And unfortunately, we are now seeing what will result in many of them becoming these decision makers on Capitol Hill, a lot of federal financial abuse. But getting back to Myron Gaines, let me know what you think. Please like, share, and subscribe. And let me know your opinions in the comment section. I'll definitely look at it and I will definitely respond back to it. Thank you so much for your support. I hope you have a great day.